Hi everyone, Kathy Beltran with Sacred Dance with Trance. I'm super excited today to have Nic Whitham here with us today. He's a fellow member. He's a spiritual healer of about 40 years. He is founder and co-trustee along with Stephen Sue of the Banyan Retreat in Kent, UK. So there's so much more that I'm going to share about him, but everybody welcome Nic.
Thank you, Kathy. It's wonderful. I'm really sorry. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. It's really nice of you to invite me. Thank you very much.
Very, very grateful, and I'm so glad that we got to work out a time. I think I've been counting you for a little bit, but thank you so much. Thank you. Usually, one of the things I do is I interview trance mediums, physical mediums, and I want to have everything connected to it as well. And it's so important for me to share with members, organizations, teachers, mentors, places where they can learn more and do this. And so I wanted definitely to have Nic on here with his retreat and talk more about that and share other groups that he is currently involved with. But usually I start out with, how did all of this start out for you? And people go back to when they were younger, but and I love that. How did your journey start to get interested in mediumship or anything like that, and the healing part as well?
I was born into a family of healers. My father was a trance healer, and my mother was a Reiki healer.
Ooh.
And Reiki was all around me as a child. And I remember when I was about 7 years old, my father was receiving healing from the medium who ran the circle in which he sat, and she came over and she was giving him healing. She had a Zulu gentleman who worked with her, and he was just always referred to as the doctor. And while the doctor was working on my father, he kind of cupped his hands and blew into my father's back where he had the problem. And I remember being amused by this, and I was sitting in the opposite corner of the room just giggling. And that was really my first recollection of healing taking place, although I was aware of it prior to that, but that's the memory that sticks in my mind. And healing was around me for most of my childhood. When I was about 15, the communicator from the same circle in which my father sat, who I'd spoken with fairly regularly on and off over the years, he asked me, he said, "So what do you want to do with your life? What are you going to do as you get older?" And I said, "I very much like to work for the spirit world." I said, "I don't know in what capacity or how that's going to happen." I said, "But that's what I want to do. If it's possible, I'd like to be a medium." And he said, no. He said, "You go out into the world," he said, "get yourself a job and enjoy yourself." And he said, "Live the life, otherwise you will always regret it." And he said, "There will come a time when you will work for my world, but that time isn't yet." So I did. I went out, I worked in the city. I worked for an American financial institution. I traveled all around the world. I was reasonably successful. And in 1997, my father passed away, and I came home to spend a little bit of time with my mother. And I also have been given the opportunity to continue to work in Hong Kong, where I was based, to relocate to Australia, or to come back to the UK. So I went to speak with the communicator once again, and I asked for a little bit of advice. And he said to me, "Well," he said, "you recall the conversation we had when you were much younger?" And of course I did. And he said, "Well, we're now at that time where it's time to come home and do some proper work." Which I did. So we relocated from Hong Kong back to the UK, and I've been getting vivid dreams about a centre. And I had no idea what it was, where it was, or why, but I had this firmly fixed in my mind. So while I was still working in the city, Stephen and I travelled around most of the southern part of the UK, in search of the ideal venue for a centre. And eventually in 2005, we found Lake House, which is the current home for Banyan Retreat. We spent a couple of years prior to that learning different healing modalities, because we wanted to combine healing and mediumship together. And when we first started, when we opened the doors in 2006, our primary focus was on healing and therapies. Mm-hmm. And the mediumship slowly crept in after that, and the balance kind of changed from healing to mediumship. And we had a lot of work that we wanted to take place, that we needed to complete in the centre. Most of the centre comprised of a very large swimming pool. It wasn't a very functional swimming pool. It was very expensive to heat. But we knew in the fullness of time we needed to cover that, and we needed to create rooms that we could work in. And I think it was around about 2008, 2009, we invited a trance medium to come and do a demonstration for us here by the name of Ron Jordan. We didn't know Ron. We'd only heard of him, and he had an excellent reputation. But as the evening started to unfold, his communicator came through and said, "I'd like to speak to the two boys at the back," meaning Stephen and I. And he said to us, "You're not going to appreciate the transformation that will take place within these walls within the next 12 to 18 months. He said it will be a centre of excellence." He said, "and you're only to let the best people, the best mediums work here." And we kind of thought, well, that's interesting, and it would be very nice if it came true. And within 18 months, the swimming pool had gone. We had two amazing rooms that we used for teaching, one that we used mainly for demonstrations and mental mediumship, and we have the other room, which is a dedicated seance room, which is blacked out most of the time. So that prediction very much came true, and we've done our best throughout the years to stay true to only allowing the best people to work with us here. The main motivation, from my perspective, when we started, was I don't want to say the poor standard of mediumship, but the standard of mediumship that I'd experienced as a child wasn't readily available in the public domain. And it soon came to me, or I soon came to realize that one of the main reasons for that was the training programs that were offered. They were very good. They weren't long enough for the tutor to spend enough time with the individual for it to be really meaningful. And there was a desire for the students to be out and working at the earliest opportunity, rather than continuing their development. So that's always been at the back of our mind. It's always been our focus, and it's been something that we've tried to encourage with the different tutors that we work with and the different programs that we run here. Mentorship programs are very much available in most cities all around the world, but they did actually start here in about 2000, I think it was probably about 2011, 2012, with Mavis Patilla. Mavis Patilla and Jean, they were here, and we were brainstorming, and from that came the mentorship programs. And of course, over the years, everybody's caught on to that concept, and they're pretty much everywhere now. But it is a great concept, because the students get to spend quality time over an extended period of time with the same tutor, so their progress is monitored. And it's not just, if you attend a workshop over a weekend and you happen to have a bad weekend or an off weekend, then there's no opportunity for that to be corrected. On a mentorship program where you have 8 to 10 weekends throughout the year, there's a better idea of where things are going wrong, where the improvements needed, and where the strength lies in somebody's mediumship. So that was very important. We soon came to realize that there were people overseas that wanted to attend the mentorship programs, but of course, flying into the UK 8 times a year becomes quite an expensive proposition. So what we've done, what we started to do this year, and will continue to do for the next couple of years, we're putting together intense 5 and 6 day workshops with the same tutor, so that the travel expenses are reduced. You get longer periods of time with the same tutor. So that's proving to be quite popular. We've had a number of groups this year with people traveling from the States, from New Zealand, from most of the European countries, and we anticipate that continuing throughout, as I say, throughout the next couple of years. All the courses are on the website for next year. They're all in the diary. So we're looking forward to seeing lots of people from overseas next year, and being able to work a little closer with them as well.
Yes, no, actually, I'm so glad that you guys are doing that. I did have a look at your website, and I wanted to find out, because some members asked, do you guys offer anything online? I always ask that because some people do, some people don't. Are you guys considering doing that, or is it just in person you have to be at the center?
At the moment, you need to be here with us. However, having said that, starting in February next year, I'm actually starting an online healing seminar. The detail, we've only just agreed the details for that, and I will be posting that information on our website sometime over the next few days. So if anybody's interested in joining that, all the details will be available. I'm going to be doing an introductory session, and then there are 4 follow-up modules to that, and you'll get a little certificate of attendance at the end of it.
Yeah, beautiful. I definitely want to have that shared in the group so people can be able to connect with that. Your story of having parents that really influenced you, you had that influence and that support. Most people definitely don't have that. But I love how you received guidance. I've interviewed so many people that have shared the same information. They heard a message from Spirit, get on with your life right now, do what you got to do, and later on you'll come and serve us. So I love when I hear that same connection with others. One of the other things is, I would say maybe at least 3/4 of the people that I've interviewed have mentioned your group, your center, or Scott, or the mediums that are connected to your center. And so, and they have such beautiful things to say. And I am very grateful that one day I will interview a couple of them there. So that it will be in the future. I wanted to also talk about the Facebook organizations that you are connected with. Could you share those groups for us? Oh, before I forget, it's banyanretreat.com. And so check that out. And the pictures of this place are just beautiful. They look so serene. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is this also your home?
Yes, it is. Yes. Oh, yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. It's beautiful surroundings. And when we first came here, there was a big debate as to whether we should open the gates when we open, or whether we should leave them closed and let people buzz for access. And that debate went on for a good number of years, until eventually people started to say that it's so nice when you arrive, the gates open for you, and you drive in or you walk in, and they close behind you. And it really does feel like a sanctuary, because you're shutting out the outside world. you have the peace and the tranquility. And there's a very different energy here now to what there was when we first moved in, and people really connect with that now, and it really is a beautiful energy. That's not just Stephen and the energy from Stephen and myself; it's from everybody else and the work that takes place here. It's all done from the heart and in love, and you really do feel that. So we're very privileged to live here too. Moving on to the Facebook groups. Sorry. I actually manage two Facebook groups. The first one is Spiritual Ambassadors. There are many groups on the internet, and particularly on Facebook, that deal with mediumship and spirituality. But we wanted to create a dedicated educational group, and I think we're kind of in excess of about 4,000 members at the moment, and that group is only it's probably about 18 months, approaching 2 years old. So we've done remarkably well. We're very fortunate enough to be supported by a group of people who have keen interest on the pioneers, and they constantly share posts and information on various people from the past. There are also topics relevant to today, things that are taking place. Unfortunately, we don't allow any advertising. Any advertising is banned on there. But if you're interested in learning more, go to the group. It's Spiritual Ambassadors, and you find that every couple of weeks there'll be a new post on there about the pioneer and about somebody who's contributed to spiritualism or to mediumship over the years. We have two rules. The first, when we assess any post, we say, is it about mediumship and is it educational? And if it falls into either of those two categories, then it goes. If it doesn't, it gets deleted, unfortunately. But it is an educational group. That was where we targeted, and it's hugely successful. So I encourage anybody who isn't already a member to go take a look.
And we'll definitely share that in the post too afterwards. And it's actually a good thing not advertising in there, because then otherwise it just becomes that, if you don't put a limit on that. So
it does. The other group on Facebook is the Spiritual Truth Foundation. Now the Spiritual Truth Foundation, of which I was very fortunate enough to be invited to become a trustee earlier this year. The Spiritual Truth Foundation was founded by Maurice Barbanel. And as many people will know, Maurice Barbanel was a channel through which Silver Birch communicated his philosophy and wisdom. The Spiritual Truth Foundation owns all the writings or the transcripts of Silver Birch's communications, plus the books that were written by Sylvia and Maurice Barbanel. So if you have an interest in philosophy and wisdom, then that's the place to head for. The website is spiritualtruthfoundation.org, where you can buy all of the Silver Birch books and a good number of other books as well. There are a couple of recordings for sale on there, but it's a wonderful organization. The proceeds from all of those sales go to supporting spiritualists, people who have contributed and are a part of the movement. It goes to supporting them in their hour of need. So it's a very worthwhile cause, and I encourage everybody to go have a look. And if by any strange chance you haven't come across Silver Birch and his philosophy, you have missed out significantly, and now's the time to go take a look and see what you've been missing.
Now, didn't you also offer just recently, well, at least in the past few months, Silver Birch Oracle cards or cards?
There are two new publications that have recently been made available. One is a deck of 30 cards, which contains quotes and a picture of Silver Birch on the back. And the other one is called The Little Book of Silver Birch, which is quotes in about, goodness, I've forgotten, about 6 or 7 different sections that they're quotes of the similar nature, or similar subject, should I say, that are grouped together. It's a small pocket-sized book, and the price of those, I think the cards are £15, and the little book of Silver Birch is £5.99. So
that's pretty good.
A very good place to start. And if you're impressed with those, then you can progress to the other larger books.
The larger books. Well, I'm glad I did share that in the group, and I think there was a lot of response to that, jumping to your website and checking that out. I did want to ask you more about the Banyan Retreat. What type of services do you offer there?
Okay. We have obviously we have the healing, and we have the healing courses. We teach Reiki, and we teach a 2-year certified healing course. We also offer a number of treatments like massage, Indian head massage, electrocrystal therapy, bioenergy field assessments. That's all on the complementary health side. On the mediumship side, we offer mental mediumship demonstrations, training courses, workshops. Shouldn't use the word training courses. They're workshops. And Stephen and I have quite a passion for physical mediumship. As I mentioned earlier, we have the dedicated seance room. So we have seances taking place here every month, and we have regular trance lead into physical workshops taking place. Again, every month. some for beginners, some for intermediate, and some advanced. In addition to that, we have 2 seminars that take place. The next one that we have, it will be coming up at Easter. It starts on the Thursday before Good Friday, and it finishes Easter Monday, and that's called Whispers from the Soul. We'll have Scott Milligan, Eileen Davies, Christine Morgan, and a lady called Anne Harrison, who is the daughter-in-law of Minnie Harrison. She was married to Tom Harrison. Tom sat in the circle, so she's going to be talking to everybody about the experiences that Tom had. Christine will be demonstrating and holding workshops for mental mediumship, as will Eileen, and Eileen will also be offering a trance demonstration, and Scott will be sitting in seance conditions, and will also have workshops again on trance leading to physical. So it's a very exciting weekend. We do one very similar to that takes place in November, and that's called Voices of the Past. That just finished a couple of weeks ago. And because it's kind of mid to late November, that has a Christmassy theme to it, which is rather nice, because when we do the seances, they are Christmas tree seances, which means that we take presents into the seance. They're obviously checked before we go in there to make sure there's no lights or batteries or anything like that. But the spirit children are invited, and they come and they unwrap them. So at the end of the sit-in, it's absolute mayhem. There's wrapping paper and toys and presents everywhere. But it's a very, very special experience. And we were truly honoured this year, because the mediumship is progressing, and the spirit children were able to talk to us from all different areas of the room, which was absolutely fascinating and truly amazing.
Yes, we actually shared your post. I think it was the Christmas tree seances. I think you are you having another one here shortly? I think you have 3 this month, or do you have one tomorrow?
We have one tomorrow, and we have another 2 later in the month. Yes, yeah. They are very, very special, and of course the toys are touched by the spirit children themselves. The scientists are able to take etheric copies of them, so that they have an etheric copy in the spirit world with them. And we then give the toys that are left with us. We give those to the local children's hospice for terminally ill children.
Oh,
And hopefully the healing energy that they'll carry with them will help those children as well.
oh, I'm sure that's beautiful. Yeah, so the video that I shared that you shared, it had the before and the after, and it was like all pretty, and then just paper everywhere. I can only imagine how that would feel, attending one of those. I just think that's amazing. So
Very special.
One day I will be there, one day, and experience the magic that you guys have there.
We look forward to that.
How many seances have you sat in?
Oh goodness.
Or you can lose count. Maybe you've lost count.
I have lost count. We were only introduced to physical mediumship around about 2009. But we've held, it's got to be 200 or 300 at least.
Wow.
We're very fortunate that we were invited to join a physical circle. So we sit each week in a physical development circle. So those are really very similar to seances also. So it has to be, if you include those, it's got to be way up in the hundreds.
Wow.
And every experience is different. Never ever the same. It's very, very special.
Oh my goodness. I was going to ask you if you could remember your first experience of phenomena or being at a seance. The first time, how was it for you? Was there something significant that happened to you?
The first time, okay. Yes, I can remember the first time I sat. It was very, very special because I didn't receive a spoken communication, but I was told that there was a piece of paper at my feet that was for me. And at the end of that, when the lights came up, I picked this piece of paper up, and written on the paper was "Love, Mum." Obviously, my mother's in the spirit world, and that was a very, very special experience.
Wow. Amazing.
And there were similarities with her handwriting too. So when you consider that whatever the spirit world do through ectoplasm, they have to do it from memory. So when they speak, they have to remember how they sound. Whatever they do, it's all based on memory. So the first time, it's rarely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I know with more experience it gets better, but there were definitely similarities in the handwriting on that paper to my mother's.
Wow, that sounds so wonderful to have experienced that.
It was, and there was another experience that I would like to share with you, because this one is very, very special. Most of the seances that we hold here are with Scott Milligan. And hopefully you'll get to interview Scott one day, and he'll be able to bring you up to speed with everything from his perspective. But most of the sittings that we have here are with Scott. But up until last year, we also had David Thompson visiting here. But now David's taken a little time out to spend time with his family. But I do recall his first visit here. And we were all going off together to Scott's home circle, and we drove down there, and as we arrived, we had a call from the lady who looks after our dogs while we're away, to say that one of our German Shepherds was very ill. He was in a coma. Now fortunately she had access to vets and things out of hours, and everything was sorted out, and the advice was just to stay with him. So we came back round about midnight, and very sadly, in the middle of the night, he passed away. Now this is German Shepherd. He was about 55 kilos, which is a considerable weight, and he passed away in the middle of the night. David had his first sitting here the following evening, and Kaiser, which was the dog's name, materialized in that sitting 17 hours after he passed.
Wow.
You heard, we have hardwood floors, so you heard his claws walking across the floor, very, very distinctive. And we're used to hearing that all the time. And you can tell which dog it was because of the weight. And that was most definitely Kaiser, all sort of 55 kilos of him.
Wow.
He walked over to Stephen, and he barked at Stephen. He walked over to me, he barked at me, and then he walked back to the cabinet. And that was a very, very special occasion. Yeah, just to know that he was still there. It was very special.
Yes, but to see that or feel that or hear that, oh my goodness. Yeah, I would have been done after that, you know. But,
I think, but you know, it's a very healing experience.
yeah.
You know, and his bark, you know, it was him, and it was probably easier for him to do at that time because he'd only been gone for 17 hours.
Wow. Yeah.
Truly amazing. Truly
Beautiful,
amazing.
beautiful experience. Thank you for sharing that.
That's quite all right. It's one of the very special moments.
Yes. Also in your at the center, I believe that you guys offer CDs of the seances. Am I correct with that? I think Scott, is it Scott's
what we've done with Scott's sittings over the years, and also we have evenings of questions and answers with the spirit communicators. What we've done is taken questions that have been asked from those, and I think we've recently released CD number 5.
Wow.
So if anybody's interested in seeing that, it's available on Scott's website, which is scottmilligan.net, and it's in the shop. That's recently released. You can actually download it. It's available for download, and there are some fascinating questions on there that have been asked over the years. And
Yes.
that's what we do. We compile them, and from time to time, when we think we have enough to make a quality CD, then we release it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love hearing spiritual truths or the Q&As that come through. I love that. So one of the things, guys, is, you know, like, again, I love to share groups, places where people can learn more, the workshops, events, things like that. So that's very big for my group and the reason why I do this. But I feel like right now I'm just asking Nic about all these things that he does, the groups that he's associated with, the Banyan retreat. And so far you haven't heard me ask one question about Nic and his own development. And so I will ask one question of Nic, and then actually we're going to save his story on this for a part 2 interview. So actually I shouldn't even ask him because I just answered it anyway. Normally I always start, are you currently sitting for your own development, Nic?
Yes, I am. I first started sitting probably around about 1986, and I sat for a number of years. Probably about, no, actually, I sat for about 3 or 4 years then, and the progress was going exceptionally well. And then I was called away to work overseas, and I was in Hong Kong. I was based in Hong Kong for a good number of years. So my personal development stopped at that time. We came back here, and I restarted in around about 2009, and that was going particularly well. Again for a couple of years, and I stopped. Something happened with my circle, and it kind of fell apart for a little while. But I started about 6 months ago. I've been sitting fairly regularly, and I'm hopeful that in the fullness of time, something will materialize that is worthy of putting before the general public. But at the moment, we're not quite there. But the development is ongoing, and I'm hopeful that in the fullness of time we'll get there.
Okay, wonderful. That's wonderful. And I can't wait to be able to talk to you about this at another time.
Good.
I do have one more question for you as far as the center. With your spirit team telling you, or the guidance that came through saying you will only have the best mediums here, is there a way that you do have a testing procedure to, I'm very curious about that.
It's very difficult. We spent many months traveling around to various places, seeing a great number of different mediums, and we reached a point where we found out that really wasn't that wasn't leading us to where we wanted to be, and we were given subsequent information that the people will be brought to us, and they have been. So we're very, very fortunate. We don't go out there looking for people, but if we hear of somebody that's of interest, then we'll take a look. And if we feel that it's the right thing to do to introduce people here, then we will. It's always a challenge, and we need to assess people. It's more of a challenge, I think, with physical mediumship than it is with mental mediumship. There are so many people out there who don't work in truth and light, that you to be more cautious with physical mediumship than you do with mental mediumship. I think you can tell fairly easily from a demonstration of mental mediumship where things are going, but far more difficult with physical.
Yes, I can't even imagine how you would test that. I mean, I guess you could, but you have to get very techno with all that. Yeah, very amazing.
It is, but I genuinely believe that people who used to sit in seance conditions, you can feel the presence of the spirit, and it's very clear, and it's very obvious, and there's an intelligence there like no other. It's like when people produce reports, there are no end of people claiming to produce reports. Now, I've seen a good number of reports produced, and there is always a connection to the person that they're being given to. They're always different. And I'll give you an example of that, and for that I will use I'll use Scott, the very first report that came through Scott Milligan. I was fortunate enough to be present when that came through, and it was two coins. One was for one of the sitters, and the other coin was for two boys that were visiting from Canada. And when you looked at the dates on the coin, I've forgotten now what it was, but the date on the coin was they were, one was 2 years older than the other, and their birth years were one below and one above the date that was on the coin. Yeah. So there's a significance in everything that they do. They're intelligent. We're dealing with an intelligence, and whenever they bring an report, there's always a significance in there, and people should always look for that and find out where it fits.
What's the connection with it?
What's the connection, and can you feel the presence? Which is, when you're used to sitting in the dark, you really do develop that to a far greater extent.
Do the outports come at every seance, or is it just?
No, there hasn't been a report now through Scott's mediumship for a little while. Mm-hmm. No, not every time. When it's needed.
When it's needed.
When it's needed. If there's somebody there with a need, then.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think there are pictures too of those on his website. It's on his website, I believe. Wow.
Correct.
The names, your name, Scott's name, actually a lot of people from your center come up all the time. So if in almost every interview, somebody's mentioning somebody. So like how you, when I asked you about how, you test people and then the people come into your awareness, or it's kind of like that with my interviews is, I kind of say it's like laid at my feet. Like I don't have to do too much work. I just know that, Spirit wants this person in this, the reason why I do the interviews. So I'm very grateful to that is not so hard for me to do. But your organization and the work that you do is amazing. And I look forward to I think you said February, you're going to have a healing group and this will be online.
It's online. Yes, it's online. Yeah. The information should be on the website. I'm going to do my best to get it there tomorrow, but it may just have to be the weekend.
Wow. I want everybody to check out the website. So it's banyanretreat.com. Check out, all their events, the stories and mediums, the reason why they started their mission. It's beautiful. And I just wish that this center was actually in the United States and not over there on the other side, because yes, that would cost a lot of money. But I like your 5-day intensive, so that's wonderful. And actually, I will tell you, Sandra Champlain, so she has done interviews with you, and I believe that she was just at your November. I think she was.
Absolutely, she was. Yeah. Yes.
And so I'm living through her vicariously. So when I hear her stories or she shares something, I'm like, wow, because she makes it sound so. I would be exactly like her. I'd be like, experiencing and witnessing things. So, but Nic, I'm so grateful to you to be on here with us. And I know that one day I will do a part 2 with Nic and we'll talk more about his development when that time comes. But I'm very looking forward to connecting with you again, Nic. And
I look forward to that too.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Very kind of you.
Oh my goodness. You have a great day. And don't hang up because I forgot to tell you not to do that. I have to make sure that it's recording as I go. So thank you again, Nic, and you have a fabulous day.
Thank you, and you.
Thank you.